We start by seeing a forest from overhead. Someone's mom calls the person in the morning. Since the phone does not get picked up, the call goes to voicemail. The mom tells her daughter they have not heard from her in about 6 days. They are all very nervous due to this. Even the girl's friends don't know where she is. If anything happened to the girl, the mother says she would lose her life. The moment she ends the call, we see a girl hanging from a tree. She is thinly covered by pollen. Then we transition into the opening theme that plays during the credits. The theme is tranquil, contrasting interestingly with the unsettling opener. At its end, a young lady arrives at a building for work. She is Hera, our protagonist, getting a call from a lady who asks her if she can watch Corey that night. Hera says she's not available because she has work. After the phone call, a man turns to her, learning that she spoke to her sister. He asks Hera if her sister is single, which she is. Once he asks if Hera is single, the lady says she kind of is, with less enthusiasm. During lunchtime, two young ladies join Hera in the break room. One of them asks Hera if she has ever been to Italy. She hasn't. The one named Vicky asks Hera if she has been anywhere. Hera does not travel much. Vicky wants to know what she is doing tonight. Hera answers that she's going on a date with someone she just calls a friend. Vicky guesses the friend is Zach, and Hera doesn't say anything to that. Out of nowhere, Vicky asks vulgarly if the two of them have done something indecent in the office yet. The lady certainly does not water down her words for a softer impact. We don't get to hear Hera's answer. The scene changes to a man ringing a bell, happily announcing to his coworkers they have a big one, a $10 million account. All the people we have seen so far are there clapping. When he's done talking, the man winks at Hera. Later, we see the two of them beside her house. She holds a pot of flowers. Hearing him tell her he had an incredible night. He is Zach, asking her if he can come in. Hera kindly tells him he cannot. During their conversation, we learn Zach made $100,000 annually right out of college, which means he makes even more now. Hera says she earns way less than that. He says she can come to him if she needs help. The man uses a metaphor of there being a glass ceiling. It is unfortunate, he says, that without help, it could crush her. After those hinting words, he insists on wanting to be invited inside. Zach keeps saying her name to her, and she mimics by repeating his to him as he presses himself onto Hera. Luckily, she's holding the potted flowers that offer some blockage against him. Annoyed that she's resisting him, Zach asks that if she didn't want this to happen, why did she let him ask her out again? She is making him look like a loser. He wants her to know she can have everything. Then he presses against her this time, the pot of flowers no longer helping, and manages to kiss Hera against her will. He follows this by opening the door for them to enter the house. The man achieved what he wanted. At a different time, we see her lying alone in bed while a door closes. She sits up to call out to Zach. Stepping onto the floor, Hera accidentally steps on a contraceptive. In the morning, she places the pot of flowers on the kitchen counter. A jacket is also lying there. It prompts her to call Zach to leave a message telling him he left it at her house. Hera adds that she likes the flowers he got her. Once she says that, she makes a face, indicating she can't believe she made such a weird statement. After leaving the message, she touches one of the flowers and notices the pollen from it on her fingers. At night, she has trouble sleeping, so she gets up to look at the flowers while drinking water. Some of that water she pours into the pot. Soon she hears a sudden sound, causing her to look outside. We see a faint silhouette of someone standing still. Turning on the outside light makes it disappear. Then her phone rings. It's Zach, who asks her if he can come over to collect his jacket. He wants her to be wearing it with nothing else on. Displeased by this thought, Hera now says she doesn't have it. In the morning, she does something strange. She presents two dresses to her flowers, asking them what they think about her wearing them. She arrives at work wearing one of them. She also brought the flowers with her. Meeting with Zach, he tells her she has something on her desk from him. When Hera gets to it, she sees it's the opposite of being a pleasant surprise. It's a small box of birth control pills. Subsequently, her boss comes to her to make Hera's day even worse by instantly criticizing the lady for being late. Although she arrived before the starting time, her boss, Lori, tells her that junior analysts have to be there before the rest of team. They talk for about 1 minute, and in that minute, we learn that Lori is a strict, pressing boss despite giving some compliments to Hera. Once the boss leaves, Hera sees Zach is behind her. He gives her the repulsive news that he took the contraceptive off last night. Therefore, he strongly advises her to take the pills he got her. Hera wants to talk to him during lunch, but he wants her to do something indecent during that time. It seems like how he treated her last night isn't enough for him to take it easy on her, since she only wants to talk about their day together. Zach leaves in disappointment. The next scene shows her entering the washroom. She sits in a stall with the box of pills Zach gifted her. After taking one of them, she hears someone enter. The lady who entered thinks Hera is there as she calls out to her. Then she opens the door and it's Vicky. Hera quickly hides the box of pills. Vicky thinks she is crying, which causes the former to advise her not to cry at work. She believes the people there will eat her alive because they are all carnivores, due to Hera simply staring at her. Vicky leaves with a certain smile. Left alone, Hera gets to experience flickering lights prior to closing the stall door that Vicky didn't bother to. Thinking that Vicky is still there, Hera calls out to her to express how she doesn't like what's happening. Amid the flickering, someone stands behind her stall door that looks like they have a plant on their head. Whoever it is, they don't say anything. Needless to say, this injects fear into Hera. When the lights stop flickering, and whoever was there no longer is, Hera exits the stall. She sees a lot of pollen on her stall door. Sitting elsewhere, she looks at the pollen on her fingers. She is sitting in a room with one of the bosses of the corporation she works for. He is Gabe, letting her know early on that, although he is scary, she does not have to be afraid of him. Her success is his success. Once he compliments her work, she smiles. We learn this is her first serious job. Before this one, she worked at a coffee shop. Gabe says he would love it if she made him a latte sometime. Hera is somewhat taken aback by those condescending words, but soon returns to her smile. Then he starts asking her questions regarding the composition of a latte that Hera does not know the details of to a good extent. This prompts Gabe to inform her that a lot of what they do is an imperfect science. For them to forecast for their client, they need to know what their client does. Further statements from the authority unnerve her. Eventually, he says trust alleviates a lot of risk. He also asks if she trusts him, and she replies that she does. Hera is forced to say it a few more times because he presses her a few more times. Thankfully, this uneasy meeting terminates with Gabe congratulating her that she is still with the company. At her house, Hera's sister, Demi, arrives with her daughter, Corey. During dinner, Hera tells Demi she is in a competitive field. If she doesn't advance quickly, she fears she might stuck. She even uses Zach's metaphor by saying there is a glass ceiling. What Hera does not want to have is a nothing job, as she calls it. Her saying this makes Demi form a slightly offended face. Moving along, Hera asks Corey what she is drawing. It's a plant pod for Hera, says the girl. She also says one of her teachers lost her life last week. Her other teacher said she was put in a bag so her body could become flowers. This macabre topic causes Corey's mother to take the girl's drawing away. But what interests Hera is why her niece drew her. Corey gives an answer that sounds like a non sequitur. Because flowers grow, she says. Later, Hera talks to her sister, as the latter is getting ready for her date. Demi does not think too much of the guy she's going to meet. Later still, Hera wakes up on her couch and calls out to Corey. She goes outside to see her niece engaged in a bizarre activity. The girl has a plant on her head in addition to her arms having plant juices on them. It might be bizarre, yet it is not surprising, for it is also a dream. A ring from the doorbell wakes Hera up a second time. It's her sister returning from her date. She shares with Hera that they engaged in an activity in his car. Then Demi somewhat strictly says she didn't do anything wrong. She had fun, and she's allowed to do that. Demi's date reminds Hera of her relationship with Zach. She becomes sad, saying he does not like her anymore. Demi hugs her sister while calling the man an indecent word. Soon Demi asks where her daughter is. She fell asleep near her, says Hera. Shortly after, Demi finds the girl sitting scared in a closet. Corey tells her mom she saw the tree man, but of course, Demi dismisses it. However, Hera is of a more engaging mindset than her sister is toward this topic. She asks her niece if she truly saw that. Alas, Demi gets upset that her sister is engaging in fantasies with her daughter, when she already has a lot of it to deal with. She leaves with Corey in disappointment. That's the note they end their meeting on. Left alone, Hera finds a flower head on the floor. On the next day, she arrives at work, where she sees Zach and Vicky sitting at the same desk, laughing at Hera. Once she sits in her area, Vicky, like a schoolgirl, throws a piece of paper in Hera's workspace for fun. Hera ignores it before engaging in her work. Then she sees Zach, which leads to her following him. By mistake, she enters a room downstairs that has several people having a meeting there. She says she had a question for Zach, but now she's sorry to interrupt them. As she is leaving, the man asks her what it is. The problem is that she does not want to say it in front of everyone. Zach, being difficult with her, tells the lady to go to the center of the room so she can ask her question. Getting there, she just asks if he can help her with something, implying that she will tell him outside this room. Unfortunately, Zach does not want her to get away easily. He asks her what exactly does she want to know. When she asks for clarification on a technical detail, He asks why she couldn't look it up. Gabe is there to clarify it for Hera. After she leaves, they all chuckle at her embarrassment. In the next scene, Hera sits upset on the stairs. Zach exits the meeting room in a matter of seconds. Seeing Hera, he tells her not to feel bad because what he did to her was merely a joke. It didn't feel like one, she replies. Zach wants her to know he thought she was special, but he admits he was wrong. He asks if she ever thinks about having another job. Hera claims to want this one. According to him, she's not good at it. After a few more exchanges between them, Hera's face contorts and she sneezes. Now her hand is covered with yellow mucus. Looking at it in fear, she is forced to leave. In the washroom, she washes her hand of the disgusting substance. However, the mucus wasn't enough. A flower head comes out of Hera's mouth, which is truly strange. Then she bangs on a stall after hearing someone in there. To her misfortune, Lori comes out to criticize Hera for her disrespectful action. She orders her subordinate to go to a certain room. The scene changes to Hera sitting in that room. Once Lori enters, Hera starts talking, but her boss instantly motions to her that she not speak. She criticizes the poor lady in there some more before letting her go. Subsequently, Hera calls her sister from work to tell Demi she does not know what she's doing. In addition, this job is very hard for her. Demi tries to calm her. She says no one will lose their life if Hera makes a mistake. Furthermore, bad things happen, yet they can't stop because of it. After the phone call, Hera is incapable of forming a lasting smile. In the process of leaving, Hera asks Vicky if she can help open the door for her. Vicky starts by saying Hera's flowers are cute. As they talk for a short time, Vicky is still not opening the door. Soon Hera asks again if Vicky could do that. Her mean coworker comes up with a strange excuse for not getting the door by saying she's sorry, but she's meeting Zach. So Hera resorts to struggling to open the door with her hands full. At home, she sits engaged in her work, and we see it brings her some stress. When she starts eating, she asks her flowers if they want her food. She starts digging in the soil, only to get startled by finding something inside. Looking again, she finds it's no longer there. At night, Hera continues to struggle to sleep. Someone is in her room to quickly remove her blanket. However, it's not a someone. What it is a plant person. Hundreds of leaves gathered together in a humanoid form. It gets on top of Hera to seemingly. Meanwhile, Zach is calling her phone. Switching back to her, the plant person is no longer there and Hera sits on her bed in fear. Coming to work on the next day, Hera looks at the bell we saw Zach ring previously. Vicky's friend is there to misunderstand her intention by asking Hera if she got a new account. She doesn't even hear her answer prior to urging Hera to ring the bell. She rings it for her, asking how much was the account. Hera tells her she didn't get one. She was just looking at the bell. This causes the lady to feel uncomfortable with such a disappointing revelation. She yells to everyone that Hera got nothing. We see Vicky hearing this and smiling in schadenfreude. Before walking away, Hera's coworker tells her she looks like an idiot. Then Hera enters Lori's office. Her boss starts by disrespecting our heroine for getting interrupted. Yet soon she congratulates her for doing well on her report. Lori tells her that if she keeps doing this, in a few months they can talk about funding her CFA classes. Hera would love for that to happen. Lori says Gabe recommended her for CFA training, something Hera is surprised to hear. Unfortunately, the respect Lori is giving her switches back to disrespect when Lori rudely says that Hera rang the bell. The poor lady does not know how to respond to that, especially since it wasn't her who rang it. Afterward, she enters Gabe's office. She tells him what Lori told her. The man confirms that he made the recommendation. Hera is surprised that he knows about her work because they don't work together. Gabe gets his information about her from Zach. Then he lets her know that great workers play the game. They don't put in the hours. He wants her to get the help she deserves because women have it hard in their workplace. Following this, Hera returns to her workspace, where she sees a note on her flowers from Vicky. Crumpling the note, she comes to her coworker to angrily throw it at her. She demands that Vicky not touch her flowers. She also notices Vicky has acquired the same flowers as her. Vicky says she got them at a store for a mere $12. This shows how much Zach was willing to spend on Hera. After Vicky turns around, Hera grabs her hair to pull her back. Of course, such an action can only result in the person who received it wanting to file a lawsuit. As Vicky talks about the damage she gave her, Hera sneezes the yellow mucus on her face. The next scene shows Hera crying at home with pollen on her. At night, she decides to drive to her workplace. Once she enters in a frantic state of mind, the plant person appears near her. Thankfully, the door separates them. But it's not enough for Hera to be absent of fear. The reason she arrived there was to collect several packets of salt from the kitchen. She uses them to pour salt into the soil of Vicky's flowers. While doing it, she expresses her hatred for her coworker. Then she comes to the bell to ring it. Since she puts a bit too much force into it, the bell gets undone. The hysterical lady screams as she twirls it around. She falls asleep in her workspace with the plant person being nearby. The place starts shaking, and she yells for it to stop during her sleep. In the morning, Lori wakes her up, demanding to know what is going on. We see people are working already. Lori continues to behave disrespectfully to Hera, even clapping near her face. In a short while, Vicky comes to Hera with her ruined flowers, asking what she did to them. She found the salt packets in her trash can. Vicky threatens to rip Hera's flowers apart, but our heroine cannot process such a threat civilly. She loves her flowers too much. Therefore, she stabs Vicky's leg with a pen. Her injured coworker falls to the floor and panics. People flock to observe the intense scene. Later, Hera is sitting outside. Gabe joins her in this moment of turmoil. He calls Vicky an offensive word. He also says he understands why Hera is mad, because Vicky got with Zach. Soon, Gabe asks if Hera wants to give Zach his jacket back, because she is wearing it. After she gives it to Gabe, he says he can introduce her to other firms. The man invites her to coffee or dinner, whichever one she wants. He can even supply her with money, yet it has to be their secret. He starts to touch her, prompting her to tell him not to do it, before getting up in frustration to run to her car. At home, she is furious and sad. She yells at her flowers, asking them what is she supposed to do now. Additionally, she asks them what they want. The lady becomes hysterical, collecting grass to mix it in her blender. Coming back to her flowers, Hera tells them she will destroy everything while forcing them to watch. She yells that she is a carnivore too. Surprisingly, she also yells to her flowers that she hates them, pouring the liquid grass from the blender into the pot. Hera cries. At night, when she exits her room, she sees the flowers are right near her door, so she picks them up. On the next day, she empties a bag of soil into her bathtub prior to adding water and stepping inside. Then Demi arrives with her daughter. The former bangs on the door of Hera's house. Since she doesn't receive an answer, Demi starts searching around the house. She hopes her sister is not deceased. Eventually, Demi says she sees Hera through the window. Strangely, despite her saying she sees Hera inside, upon turning around, Demi sees her sister standing with her arms held outward, as if she's imitating a plant receiving sunlight. Demi's response to this weirdness is to use the hose to douse the dirt-covered Hera with water. Inside the house, on the table, we observe several glasses that had blended grass juice in them. The two sisters are there, with Demi demanding to know what is going on. Aside from the chaos Demi has already witnessed, we learn Hera hasn't come over for dinner at Demi's place. Plus, she hasn't answered her phone. Demi also learned that Hera got fired from her job last week for stabbing someone. Hera says that Vicky attacked Grace. This is the name she has given to her pot of flowers. Demi loses her mind with her sister. She simply cannot believe what has come over her. Then, Hera hears a shattering sound, making her rush to the room where her flowers are. She sees that Corey has dropped them, and the pot is broken. Corey says that an unspecified male told her to do it. Of course, Hera gets angered. Demi comes to them, yelling at her sister for what she did. Hera cries at the sink. Behind the window, she sees the plant person standing. She goes outside to now see it standing in the middle of the street. It causes her to quickly walk away in the other direction. Hera walks all the way to her previous job by the morning time. She enters the building and calls out to Zach. Vicky is now using crutches. She falls in surprise upon seeing Hera. Crying, the latter asks Vicky where Zach is. She doesn't know because he does not talk to her anymore. Lori is there to threaten Hera by saying she will call the police and issue a restraining order. Afterward, Hera sits outside until Demi drives up to her. Our attention is brought to her being muddily barefoot. As Hera is entering her sister's car, Demi is making a face like she can't believe what she has to do. In there, Hera says she didn't want to engage in intimacy with Zach. She also says he made her take a birth control pill. Demi is surprised to hear this, asking Hera why she didn't say this earlier. Furthermore, Hera expresses love for her flowers. They made her feel like nothing bad ever happened. Ending this scene, Hera says she feels bad for hitting Corey. She thinks no one should ever do that. Then Hera gets taken home, where she buries her flowers outside. When she takes food out of the microwave, she sees the plant person in the microwave's reflection. Very strangely, they both sit at the table and Hera doesn't say a word. She eats in awkward silence as a being that shouldn't exist sits beside her. Soon it slams the table with both of its hands out of anger. They also lie in bed together. Finally, Hera says something. She says she has to go to the washroom. Entering it, she sees shards from the broken pot lying on the sink. Once the doorbell rings, she pockets a shard before answering the door. It is Zach who came to her. He starts by asking if she is okay. They talk for a short time until he starts touching her. Hera has to push him away. She tells him that he did all this mess to her. He ruined everything. The jobless lady yells that he did her, not wanting to take such responsibility. Zach calls her crazy. He says she's just another dumb harlot who's trying to use indecent methods to climb the corporate ladder. Then he makes the mistake of saying she couldn't even keep a plant alive. This fuels her with anger, and she stabs him repeatedly with the pot shard. Suffering on the floor, Zach says he will get her a better job. But our heroine boldly tells him she is the glass ceiling, the metaphor she heard from him. She takes his life by kicking his head. Subsequently, she buries him too. On another day, Hera has her sister at her house along with Corey. Hera is looking at pictures of flowers that her niece drew for her. She tells the young girl she is sorry for what she did. After that, she takes Corey to her backyard to show her 2 flowers growing there. They are like the ones she had. Corey asks if they are safe because they both see the plant person standing there. Hera simply puts one of the flowers in Corey's hair. Ending it all, Demi comes to join them. Seeing the plant person too for the first time, she does not seem to find it particularly unusual.